How do you calculate inflation? Here's the deal. Some prices go up and others go down. So we need to put all of them together and calculate it. What are the units of inflation? They'll be in growth rates or percentages. A reminder that the basic formula for a percent change is new minus old divided by old multiplied by 100. We multiply by 100 to get it in those percentage units. So let's get the price of the suitable basket. Here's the starting formula. You take every single good or service in that basket. In this case, we just have good A, B, and C. You define how many are in the basket by having a quantity for each of them, and then the respective market price. You add up how much we spend on good A, B, and C, and that gives you the total price to purchase a particular standard of living in 2021, for example. Now, when we want to know what the inflation rate is the next year in 2022, we only want to measure the changes in price effects. Therefore, we need to keep the quantities the same. We want to see how much it costs to maintain the same standard of living through time. So therefore, the price of the same basket in 2022 is going to use the next year's prices, but keep the previous year's quantities. Then the last step will be converting this into percentage changes. So you take the price of the basket in the new year minus the price of the same basket in the previous year, divided by the old basket price, and multiply by 100. Here we have a very simple problem. Our consumer basket in the year simply consists of 80 cups of coffee and 20 pizzas. The first thing we need to know is the cost of the expenditures in 2022. 80 cups of coffee multiplied by their $2.50 each, plus the 20 pizzas multiplied by their $8 each. The price of the market basket is $360. Next, what is the cost of expenditures in 2023? Well, first off, we're going to keep the exact same basket, 80 cups of coffee, 20 pizzas, but we need some new prices. We've seen some inflation. It's now $3 for a cup of coffee and $10 for a pizza. Oh my goodness. This is a market basket of $440. Now that we have the market basket prices, let's ask what the inflation rate is between the 2 years. You take the new price of the basket minus the old price of the basket, divide by the old, multiply by 100, and you get a massive inflation rate of 22%. These numbers are a little high. As we've seen in the United States, we've never seen an inflation rate that high across all goods and services. Yeah, but maybe in coffee and pizza. Now, this simple methodology brings some measuring difficulties that economists have been worried about for decades. First is sometimes the CPI will overstate the inflation people are experiencing, and other times the CPI will understate the inflation. When there are quality improvements, a vehicle gets higher miles per gallon, electronics are faster and lighter with longer lasting batteries, houses have more square feet and better insulation. How do we control for this? The Bureau of Labor Statistics uses a hedonic pricing model to attempt to control for this, and they do a decent job. Likewise, not just getting a quality improvement, you can get a new product, better than the previous one. Or you can substitute away to equally quality but less expensive ones. This is always a question of the best way to substitute for different in baskets. What ways does CPI overstate inflation? The opposite, when quality diminishes. In 2020, a lot of restaurants weren't open and you can only receive takeout, and that's simply not as good as dining in. And a lot of other places, we had increased wait times. The BLS doesn't control for these quality changes in the same manner. The economists at the Bureau of Labor Statistics are constantly trying to find better methodologies and more accurate ways to calculate this important macroeconomic measure. Nevertheless, a lot of people wonder whether or not government data is reliable. Is it possible the government's lying to us? Now, of course, we have documented evidence of this happening, but how frequent is it? Is there a way for us to check this? The answer is yeah. There are many economists who do independently estimate their own inflation series. Alberto Caballo has done so internationally, both looking at Argentina as well as other countries across the world. The Billion Prices Project, with the URL right there, collected online prices across the globe and used rigorous methodologies to simulate the consumer price index. Well, what did they find? Here's the graph for a number of countries. The solid line is the price index they calculated using strictly online prices, whereas the dotted line represents the official government statistics. Now, they're never going to be exactly the same, because official government measurements send tens of thousands of surveyors to brick and mortar stores across the country, whereas only a portion of goods and services are actively bought and sold online. Nevertheless, given those limitations, we find from China, Brazil, South Africa, the United Kingdom, Germany, and Japan more or less have really accurate official data. Well, how does the US fare up? The online price index goes up at nearly the same rate as the official government data go up. Contrast this with Argentina's official price index. The divergence is extraordinary. The authors of the paper estimate that the Argentinian government simply divided the real number by 3 to get their reported figure, at least for the years between 2007 and 2015. Considering in 2023 Argentina is now sitting at 124% inflation, things have not improved much since. But what I love about this exercise is that it shows the quality and accuracy of macroeconomic data statistics coming from countries across the world not only are rigorously estimated according to the best methods we know how, but are done so with integrity and transparency. Now, because methodologies improve over time, the BLS methodology will change, and some people have expressed concerns that some of those changes may lead to inaccurate measures. And so, the BLS also reports a historical research series that measures it consistently over the period. So this particular series, the R-CPI-U.RS, presents an estimate of the official urban CPI from 1978 to the present using a historically consistent method. The last thing I want to do in this video is discuss how to calculate real versus nominal variables. We use nominal variables for current year prices, so we use today's dollars to navigate today's world. If you go to Walmart, you can't tell them, hey, I want to pay for this in 1982 dollars. It's not, you got to use current money for that. Real variables keep the price level constant over time. Some examples of nominal variables are debt contracts, which generally are simply in nominal terms. If you buy a house with a 30-year mortgage, the entire 30-year duration of the mortgage is going to use the numbers from the original contract. And we use real variables when we want measures of the real stuff, so changes in economic output or purchasing power in wages. This will help us answer historical questions about how we calculate this in today's money. In order to get the new price, we take the old price and multiply it by the ratio of the consumer price indices. Because we generally have inflation, that CPI new is going to be a larger number than CPI old, and so that'll convert those old prices into modern measurements. Now, instead of memorizing a formula, of course, you could just go to Google and punch in an inflation calculator. There's going to be a lot of them out there. The most reliable one will come from the BLS, and very conveniently, we can just punch something in, set the dates, and get a current number. But this is a class. We're going to learn how to do this on our own. It's pretty simple. Take this radio from 1922, 100 years ago. This is a radio Christmas. The price was $215. What does that even mean in today's numbers? We've seen 100 years of price changes as well. Well, let's collect all of those pieces. We're going to need the CPI over the whole period. We can go to Fred and type in the Consumer Price Index. We can go down to December 1922, which gives us a CPI of 16.9. Now, recall the particular units for this is that the index of 1982 to 1984 is equal to 100. Bringing it forward to today, the Consumer Price Index is 307.789. Now we've collected all of the pieces here. Plug this into our formula. The new CPI is 307, the old CPI is 16.9, and the old price is $215. You plug this all into a calculator and you get the equivalent price today of $3,915.66. We can check this to see if we get the same method as the BLS. Go to the year 1922, month of December, $215 has the same buying power as nearly $4,000 today. This shows the tremendous economic progress we have seen in the past 100 years. Not only are radios incredibly cheap today, but even a 75-inch, internet-ready, smart television with the latest high-definition quality will be around $1,000 to $1,200, a quarter of that amount today. Would you pay $4,000 just for a radio? Because that's the equivalent price of what it was in 1922.